What what about Titanfall separates itself from the arena shooter genre? Explain. Explain, Krilix! What about Titanfall's mechanics arbitrarily separates itself from the arena shooter genre? Explain yourself.
Uh-oh, retard alert! Retard alert, class!
Hello everyone, how's it going? I hope y'all are doing well. Now this isn't going to be some stupid apology video, as I frankly don't have anything to apologize for. Now in case you were unaware, this is a follow-up video from my previous video I made on Thunderstruck 115's response to the Act Man. Now as it turns out, there were quite a few individuals that were displeased, so to speak, with the way I responded to his video. Now this is going to be a response to someone by the name of Brother Nier 2.0 in his live stream. Now there are others that made responses, but frankly, I can't be bothered to make more than one of these videos. Now before I start, there are a few things, very minor things that I got wrong, such as Nintendo 64 having a Wolfenstein release, but those things are so minor that there's no real reason for me to include them into this video. So if you want to see the full response with Brother Nier, you can check out the live stream in the description below. So with that being said, go ahead and sit back, relax, and let's see how big of an L this is going to be for me.
So because some random motherfucker that you asked doesn't know what an arena shooter is means the entire genre is just dead? What the fuck kind of logic is that?
Alright, I'm not trying to be too mean here, but one of my friends pointed this out, and I can't just unfucking hear it. You sound like a dumber Squidward. Back to the original point. I guarantee you, if I go ask any of my family members that play video games that are older than me, and that don't play video games religiously, they can't tell me what an arena shooter is. Of course, if I go ask my friends that play said game—
That's an anecdotal statement. Entirely anecdotal. That does not mean the genre is irrelevant. That was Thunderstruck's point.
Alright, what would you like me to do then? Would you like me to go into the street and interview random people on what they think an arena shooter is? You know, how about you actually step outside and go ask normal people? Not your friends that stay on YouTube all day. Just go ask normal people. Because personally, I'm not going to put in the effort to go interview 50 random people off the street to see if they can identify what an arena shooter is. With me, they're gonna be able to tell me what it is because they fucking play them with me. But most normal people cannot define an arena shooter, and that's because they're so irrelevant nowadays, with the exception of Doom. Hell, even you yourself when it comes to the single—
Are we gonna ignore Quake now?
When the newest Quake entry can't even get 1,000 players, yeah, Quake multiplayer is irrelevant right now.
Are we gonna ignore Quake? Are we gonna ignore Unreal Tournament? Because those are pretty popular. Are they alive? I don't know, I don't play them.
My guy, if you don't even know if they're alive or dead or not, why the fuck are you even bringing them up? My point is that they're dead. The game's dead. It's pretty fucking irrelevant.
Also, unless your friend just doesn't really follow gaming that closely, I highly doubt that he doesn't know of any arena shooters, especially considering that, you know, Doom Eternal is a thing.
That's the thing though, most people do not follow gaming closely. They play the few games they
Source?
You know, if you stepped outside, you know, went to the real world and interacted with real normal people, you would see plain as day my fucking source.
What kind of perspective are you talking about here? What is this perspective you're going for? A lot of people don't follow gaming that closely. Okay, what kind of people are you talking about here?
Do you have short-term memory loss? I literally just fucking stated I'm talking about from the perspective of a normal person playing, whether it be FIFA, Call of Duty, Forza, whatever it may be. But that's about how—
What do those games have to do with the genre or the topic at hand here? Are you fucking retarded? What do Forza or FIFA or whatever the fuck have to do with arena shooters? What? Because people play games like Forza or FIFA or look into games like that, that somehow means they don't look into games like Doom or Quake anymore?
Mind pointing out where the fuck I said that? Because nowhere throughout that clip did I even fucking hint at that. I stated people play the games they enjoy, and that's about it. Most people do not dive into the deep gaming news side of things. They just play the games they enjoy, and that's about it. I hoped that someone with a room temperature IQ would at least be able to understand that, but I guess I was fucking wrong.
Though developers have tried to revitalize the arena shooter genre, it seems none have really been successful.
Oh, you know, none have been successful besides, you know, Wolfenstein: The New Order, Proteus, Dusk, Ultra Kill, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, Doom 2016, Doom Eternal.
Holy shit, my fucking ears. Loud does not equal funny. Please
Subjective.
keep that in mind. To address your points, I've never heard of Dusk or fucking Proteus, and I play Arena.
You're living under a rock then.
How am I the one living under a rock? Dusk at its all-time high had 557 active players. Now it can barely reach 200, and Proteus can barely even reach 50 fucking players. How am I the one living under a fucking rock when I haven't played games no one fucking plays?
Because Proteus and Dusk, well, more so Dusk, are pretty good examples of competent arena shooters that were made recently. Especially Dusk. Dusk is extremely popular.
Oh, really?
The multiplayer could use a little bit more of an audience, but Dusk is still pretty popular. A lot of people play Dusk. Let me check the Dusk concurrent player count. $229 playing 17 minutes ago, 238 24-hour peak, all-time peak 557.
This is 4K! How did they get you at 4K?
He's talking about multiplayer arena shooters, dumbass. No one has made a good arena shooter that is multiplayer as of
Example?
Do you realize what you just asked me? You asked me to provide an example of there being no good popular arena shooters that are multiplayer. How the fuck am I supposed to provide an example of that?
So, what classifies as a good arena shooter to you?
Well, Nier, to answer your question, it's a very, very simple answer. One that I have fun in.
Let's get that out of the way. What was the last arena shooter to you that was good? What do you define as a good arena shooter as of recent? What is the most recent good arena shooter that you can think of right now, Krilix?
Also, another really simple answer. We're talking about multiplayer arena shooters, which I assume you are. That would be Halo 5, which released in 2015, 8 years ago.
You tell me. Quake Champions?
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
That was 2017. You want to know a really good arena shooter that came after Quake Champions? Dusk. Proteus.
Bro, I'm not touching Proteus. You can't even get 50 players into that game for multiplayer. And Dusk, once again, multiplayer's dead as fuck.
What's another good one? Shit, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Is it really on the tip of your tongue? Because I'm more inclined to believe that you just can't think of any more examples.
One that has multiplayer in it. I'm thinking of a New Blood title. It's not a medieval. A medieval is not one. Yeah, we can count Halo. We can count Halo as one. Halo Infinite.
You can't be serious right now. Halo Infinite was anything but competent at launch. The game launched with 6 maps, and it took them over a fucking year to add one singular gun that has already been in previous Halo games, might I add. Not to mention the fact that you couldn't even pick what mode you wanted to play when the game launched, and we still don't have basic ass game modes like Griff Ball or Infection.
You're really gonna claim that GoldenEye forces you to make more decisions in gameplay than something like Doom or Quake?
My guy, when the fuck did he say that? Never once did he say GoldenEye forces you to make more decisions than Doom or Quake. He said it forces you to make more slower and methodical decisions.
Doom and Quake have a wide variety of...
Okay, but that also doesn't mean that he didn't invalidate quote-unquote decisions in games like Quake or Doom.
How on earth did he invalidate decision-making in Quake or Doom? He himself is on record saying you need to make decisions in Doom and Quake. What the fuck are you on about?
So how is GoldenEye any different on how it plays compared to Doom or Quake?
You serious?
Holy shit, your intelligence level is fucking mind-blowing. What kind of knuckle-dragging retard actually asks that question, especially from someone like you who plays fucking arena shooters?
Debate has been had over whether Halo is an arena shooter or not. While I think it's much more similar to this older genre of game than something like Call of Duty, anyone who's played Quake or Doom will tell you, fuck no, Halo isn't an arena shooter. Movement is much slower. You can only carry 2 weapons, not to mention melee and grenades weren't treated as their own weapons on a dial, regenerating health, etc.
Alright, I want everyone to keep this clip in mind. Actman is saying that Halo isn't an arena shooter.
Dude, were you fucking dropped on your head as a child? Where did he state that he believes Halo is not an arena shooter? If you actually listen to what he fucking said, he's talking about the people who primarily play Doom and Quake.
Now, I know.
So what about that makes it so that he isn't claiming that Halo isn't an arena shooter?
I don't know. Maybe the fact he didn't fucking say it? God, and I thought you'd actually start thinking before you spoke, after that Discord drama video made on Griffin. But I guess I stand corrected.
And aside from many visual upgrades, there hadn't been much that changed.
But if you look at arena shooters nowadays, they have changed. They were able to adapt, and therefore they have been able to be successful.
No, the core gameplay of arena shooters is still very much the same. You have the no weapons.
Yeah, the core gameplay. But what about the innovations that games like Ultra Kill made? Even though that's kind of conflating arena shooters with boomer shooters in general, doesn't mean that they're the exact same game. Sure, the core gameplay is there, it's the same, but different arena shooters or different boomer shooters have innovative mechanics.
Make sure y'all prepare yourselves for the absolute mental midgetry about to take place here.
Ultra Kill has the marksman pistol. You flip a coin, you shoot it, it reflects to a nearby enemy, and it targets its weak spot.
How is that innovative? That is more of a gimmick or a quirk about the game. That's not fucking innovative. It's just like shooting a demon's weak point with a ballista with extra fucking steps.
Proteus. Every single weapon has an alt fire.
How is Proteus the one that innovated on that? Doom Eternal came out first, and every single weapon had an alt fire. In fact, the alt fire in Doom Eternal could completely change how you use the weapon.
And it has its own map editor, where you can create custom levels, even for the multiplayer.
I hate to break it to you, but Halo 3 did that 13 years before Proteus came out, and these guys are trying to say I did no fucking research.
Dusk. You can do front flips and back flips in Dusk. Titanfall 2, you had the new grappling hook mechanic that very much increased the movement speed of the game.
I thought we were talking about arena shooters. Where the fuck did Titanfall 2 come from? And if you're really out here trying to call Titanfall 2 an arena shooter, then you better be calling Call of Duty an arena shooter, because Titanfall is literally Call of Duty with faster paced movement and fucking mechs. And once again, these guys are trying to harp on me from my lack of research.
Kind of game, drifting from its roots.
Yeah, and Doom 3 fucking sucked. What's your point?
His point was that Doom was no longer an arena shooter at that point in time, further showing how arena shooters were dying off. Do you have basic comprehension skills, or are you really just this fucking stupid?
So because Doom 3 was entirely different compared to its predecessors, that means the genre's dead.
No, but it definitely contributed to the fall in popularity of arena shooters, which, you know, is exactly what I stated, but you know, it's no surprise that your dumbass had trouble comprehending that.
Never mind the fact that people could just go back to games like Doom, or Doom 2, or Doom 64, or any other boomer shooter like Marathon, or whatever the fuck, Duke Nukem, Quake. So just cause Doom 3 was massively different, that means somehow the genre's dead.
You know, by your same logic, it is completely impossible for any game genre to die because they can just go back and play previous iterations of said genre, which is completely stupid because most people are not going to want to downgrade that much on the main game they play. And just so your atom-sized brain can understand it, by most people, I mean most normal people.
Not to mention Counter-Strike had seen a major update with CS Source, and Call of Duty was starting its run of success as World War II shooters were becoming more mainstream. Add on to this the rise of Battlefield, Battlefront, and other massive FPS titles, and the once mighty pie that arena shooters alone used to feast on was being consumed by many others.
Yeah, because those other...
So Actman's argument here is that arena shooters were becoming more irrelevant because of games like Counter-Strike or Battlefield or Medal of Honor or Call of Duty. Which is fair, because the mass market appeal. But just because there's a mass market appeal for those games doesn't mean the genre's dead, because clearly there's still an audience there. Now here's Thunderstruck's argument.
kinds of shooters that were previously swimming in this primordial soup were finally able to come into their own. Whether they be story-driven games like Half-Life 2, survival horror games like System Shock, or something more arcadey like Halo and later Call of Duty.
Hey dumbass, you just fucking repeated what he was saying. You literally took what he said.
Did he really repeat what Actman was saying? It sounded more like he was arguing in favor of the arena shooter genre and how it was evolving.
You went full retard, man.
Oh, well did he now? Well, would you be so kind as to point out the example of how he explained that? Because if you go back and watch the clip, you can see that nowhere in that clip did he say that. Oh, and earlier in the stream, were you not trying to insult me on not being able to listen to what was being said?
Ironic.
But no, he's just regurgitating what Actman said. Thunderstruck, am I wrong? Aren't you arguing in favor of the arena shooter genre and how they were evolving?
Hold up. Wait a minute.
First of all, like I said earlier, I would love for you to point out where at all he even remotely hinted at saying that. Secondly, throughout this entire live stream, you are talking about the Actman being completely biased against arena shooters, but yet you're going to ask Thunderstruck, which, might I add, couldn't be more of a biased party in this situation, if he said something that he clearly did not say in the video clip. Of course he's going to say everything he can to make himself not look fucking stupid. I don't understand how you watched the clip twice and still did not understand it.
Saying that arena shooters were still doing fine, but now other types of shooters were also doing fine. That's fair. That's basically saying that a genre still has an audience, despite the mass market appeal going towards games like Call of Duty.
Okay, let me lay this out as simply as possible for your dumbass, okay? The Actman stated that the arena shooter audience had started to dwindle because of the release and popularity of newer shooters that were not of the arena shooter genre. And then Thunderstruck proceeded to say the exact same thing. So please tell me where the differences lie. Also, side note, a game can have an audience and still be irrelevant. This is not me nitpicking as you guys kept bringing this game up, but for example, Proteus has an audience on average of 50 to 60 players. If that isn't the definition of an irrelevant game, I don't know what the fuck is.
Once the Xbox One and PS4 generation kicked off, then arena shooters really started to come back and showed that they were certainly alive and well.
I want you to do me a quick favor here, okay? Can you name one multiplayer arena shooter that was alive anywhere near to the point of Halo or Call of Duty?
Doom 2016.
You may have the slightest bit of an argument if you're talking about purely the first month of Doom 2016's release. After that, the player count drops drastically speaking. And I'm not saying I prefer it this way. I played the shit out of Doom 2016, but I'm not trying to deny the facts that arena shooters as a whole are pretty much dead with the exception of Doom. And when it comes to the multiplayer side of things, they're pretty much all dead.
Are we going to ignore that game's existence now? Sure, it may not be as active as when it was launched, but it was alive. The multiplayer on Doom 2016 was alive. Are we going to ignore that game's existence now?
I mean, if you want to count 1,000 players on average as a multiplayer game being alive and well, then yeah, I guess you could say Doom 2016's multiplayer was alive and well. But then again, that's a very, very low standard to call a game alive and well. Oh, and I'd also like to mention that that's assuming that all players that were online at that time were playing the multiplayer instead of the single player, which, you know, most people played Doom 2016 for.
Like, oh my god. Technically, we can also count Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite is an arena shooter. At least the multiplayer side.
1. Halo Infinite launched like dog shit. 2. Halo Infinite can't even get a higher player count than Battlefield 2042, and that is fucking sad. And 3. Halo Infinite came out a year after the Series X launched. He's talking about the Xbox One generation, dipshit. In the Xbox One or PS4 generation. Just name one, and notice how I said fucking multiplayer, dumbass, not single
Doom 2016.
player.
FPS
Dusk, even. That's not on console, but Dusk.
Well, at least you named a game from that generation, but that's completely overshadowed with the fact that Dusk at its peak had 557 players playing at the same time. I said anywhere near to the point of Halo or Call of Duty. Are you seriously out here trying to tell me that Dusk was anywhere close at all to being in the popularity of Halo or Call of Duty? The amount of stupidity in this video is fucking insane on your part. I thought you at least had had room temperature IQ, but at this point I'm thinking it's more towards freezing levels.
Battlefield had squads, Counter-Strike had teamwork and coordination, and arena shooters were still just zipping and zooming around without a care in the world. You guys want to go fast again? Are we still popular? I hope so.
I mean, right there, you gave a reason for people to play arena shooters that they might not get in other types of shooters.
I swear, this entire video is literally you hearing what he's saying, but not actually listening to what he's fucking saying. Cause he's talking about the social aspect of things. Battlefield, Call of Duty, and Halo were a lot more social than any of the Quake, Doom, or Duke Nukem games.
Again, just because the mass market preferred those games over arena shooters, that doesn't mean the audience for that genre is non-existent now.
I never said the audience was non-existent. Hell, they're my favorite type of shooter to fucking play. However, I'm not the one in denial saying that multiplayer arena shooters are alive and well.
It's more like you're coming up with excuses to defend Actman here.
Oh, am I now? Because it appears to me that you're reaching as far as humanly possible to defend your little friend Thunderstruck over there, no matter how stupid his statements are. You know, you talk a lot about biases in this live stream, so why don't you go ahead and look in the mirror? Go play Titanfall.
Like in something like...
Oh hey, that's another game we can name that's on console and appeal to the mass market. Titanfall! We can add that to the list. Thank you, Krilix.
Look, here's the thing.
Fine. Listen,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Are you mentally fucking retarded? How is Titanfall 2 at all a fucking arena shooter? The only thing you could remotely call an arena shooter aspect of Titanfall 2 is the movement speed. Everything else goes completely against what arena shooters stand for. There is no fucking even starts. You start with a loadout that you make that you can put literally anything in there. There are no weapon pickups around the map. There are no power-ups. How the fuck is Titanfall 2 at all an arena shooter, you knuckle-dragging retard?
Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, Battlefield, or Halo, can you zip and zoom around the battlefield like you can in an arena shooter? No.
I can in Titanfall, which is not an arena shooter.
Yeah, it is. What about Titanfall separates itself from the arena shooter genre? Explain. Explain, Krilix! What about Titanfall's mechanics arbitrarily separates itself from the arena shooter genre? Explain yourself.
Okay, I cannot be bothered to go back and look at the beginning of the stream, but if I remember correctly, you stated that you have never played Titanfall 2 before. So talk about a lack of fucking research. But I am so eager to answer your question. Let's start off. First of all, there's fucking loadouts. What arena shooter allows you to customize every single bit of your fucking kit? Alright, there is regenerating health, there's a 2-weapon limit, which I know Halo and Splitgate have a 2-weapon limit. They are still arena shooters, but not nearly as much as a game like Quake. And on top of all that, unless you're picking up weapons from dead players or dead AI, there is nothing to go around and fucking pick up. Everything you start with in your fucking inventory. How much further away from an arena shooter can you fucking get? How the fuck are you going to try and harp on me for a quote lack of research when you're making dumbass comments like fucking this? Are you seriously going to try and sit here and tell me that the chat log in fucking Doom 1993 is anywhere at all comparable to actually talking to the enemy team in Call of Duty or Halo? Because if so, that's a big fucking reach, my guy.
Why didn't arena...
How is that a reach? What? Voice chat and text are literally how you communicate in multiplayer. What? 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 Really? That's a reach?
So you're gonna sit there and try and tell me that doing this is the same as doing this?
You guys fucking learn how to actually play the fucking game and talk. Shoot a gun, dog. Learn how to fucking shoot a gun, you fucking riot shield. What else you want me to Oh, riot shield! I'm a pussy that use riot shield! Oh, I'm a pussy. What do you want me to use? Faggot. You tell me what you want me to use. That's prestige, you fucking fag. Tell me what it's fucking is, huh?
Like I said, it's ironic how you try and trash Actman for his biases, but are completely blind to your own.
Titans, loadouts, chosen abilities, it's not a traditional arena shooter. I'm not arguing that it is a traditional arena shooter, but what I am saying is that Titanfall has a lot of arena shooter DNA within it. It has a really fast movement. It's got a lot of different guns you can use,
By your same fucking logic, games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, Destiny fucking 2 are arena shooters. By those requirements, you can't even hold on to your own definition of a fucking arena shooter, and you want to sit here and try and argue with me whether or not arena shooters are dead in the multiplayer scene? Yeah, you're fucking stupid.
I would argue that Titans in Titanfall are more so an evolution of the arena shooter genre.
You see, you state this, but give no examples how, and if I remember correctly, you haven't played the fucking game, so how the fuck are you supposed to know if it's an arena shooter or not? Because clearly you have not looked into the game very deeply whatsoever fucking ever if you're trying to claim Titans are an evolution of an arena shooter.
It's more proof that arena shooters are evolving, especially Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is extremely fast, which a lot of arena shooters are known for.
Just because a game is fast-paced does not make it an arena shooter, dipshit.
And I would argue that Titanfall, like Titans, are just another example of an evolution of the genre.
Once again, you state that, but give no fucking examples whatsoever. What about calling in a Titan that you made a loadout for screams arena shooter to you?
Sure, it may not be a straight-up arena shooter, but it has arena shooter DNA within it, kind of like Halo does.
Halo and Titanfall are not comparable whatsoever, no matter how hard you're trying to reach. How on earth did you say this without realizing you look like a fucking dumbass?
I remember you saying multiplayer defines it as an arena shooter. Are you sure that should define it? Because I disagree. Why do you disagree with that?
I swear, you were looking for any reason to claim that arena shooters are not dead in the multiplayer side of things. You have such a loose definition of an arena shooter. You can count any multiplayer shooter as an arena shooter. It means games like Fortnite, games like Call of Duty, games like Battlefield, games like Titanfall. All of those are apparently arena shooters according to you.
According to like FPS experts, an arena shooter is defined as like a multiplayer only like game that takes place in arenas.
And those supposed FPS experts are fucking stupid.
Because then all the single player arena shooters aren't arena shooters, then yeah, multiplayer arena shooters are most certainly dying. Maybe. I don't think they're dying more so than a lot of different genres of games are just taking the spotlight.
How you have not overdosed with the amount of copium you are injecting into your veins right now is fucking beyond me.
Because clearly the arena shooter genre has an audience still. Like the fact that Actman made this video to begin with and people, like several people took issue with it. Like a lot of people took issue with it.
Oh, really?
This dude is literally taking a page out of Quantum TV's book, which, you know, that's never really a good sign of a mentally stable individual.
You deserve an Olympic gold medal for the amount of mental fucking gymnastics you're pulling here. How is he at all pulling a page out of Quantum TV's book?
Maybe let the video play and he'll explain.
You see, I don't know if you're legally blind, but if you looked at where you paused, it's playing the video clip, dumbass.
But right here, he's expressing the same attitude that Quantum TV had towards Elden Ring.
No, Quantum TV said that a game that isn't made for everyone shouldn't be made at all. What Actman is saying is that the game isn't that accessible to newer players because of the amount of skill gap that there is between the low skill player and the high skill player.
And what does that say about Elden Ring then?
Elden Ring is a primarily single player game. Yeah, you can go up against other players in PvP, but most normal people play Elden Ring for the single player.
Because remember, Actman defended Elden Ring for not being accessible to new players. So that argument falls flat on its face.
Does it really though? Because what I just said is factually true. Games that have a high skill gap tend to not get very many new players into their game versus games with a low skill gap like Call of Duty. There's a reason Call of Duty is so popular. Of course there will be exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, that tends to be how things work. Not to mention, part of the fun from Elden Ring comes from the trial and error of learning a boss's attacks and figuring out how best to beat it. Dying to a boss boss in Elden Ring and going to your last save point is completely different than being absolutely obliterated by a player with thousands of hours, losing your entire weapon inventory.
Not just arena shooters, like in Halo Infinite, I've seen many people in the community bitch about how the Mangler is too overpowered, or in the more recent Call of Duty games, people complaining about slide canceling or some other shit. Wherever there's an online multiplayer game and an online community of people around that game, there's gonna be those kinds of people that are just gonna bitch about the game being unbalanced or whatever.
No, a game being unbalanced is completely different from a game having a high skill ceiling. It doesn't take any skill to shoot someone with a mangler then melee them. It doesn't take any skill to double tap B to slide cancel. It does take actual skill to properly rocket jump and B-hop around the map.
You might be thinking, well, Actman company.
But according to Actman and a bunch of people, apparently, that's gatekeeping.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
The New Order, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, Ultra Kill, and Proteus are single player only. Because that's what the majority of arena shooter players play the games for.
How are we supposed to play it for something else when there's no other fucking option? If it's only single player, there's no option to play multiplayer. I would love nothing more than to play Doom Eternal's combat in a deathmatch setting. But guess what? That doesn't fucking exist because they're single player only.
Doom
Battle mode
2016?
doesn't fucking count.
All the franchises.
Why? Why doesn't battle mode... Why does battle mode not count?
You literally tried claiming that I don't listen earlier in the video, and you're gonna try saying that? I literally said I would like to play Doom Eternal's combat loop in a deathmatch setting. Please tell me how battle mode is anything like a traditional arena shooter deathmatch.
And with its sequel, Eternal, they ditched the entire concept of arena multiplayer entirely in favor of making this one mode that I played 3 times and never touched again. So
But that's technically an arena shooter.
Dude, by your definition, almost every single shooter is an arena shooter.
It's multiplayer, it takes place in an arena, and you fight people. It's a multiplayer arena.
Bro, you sound about as intelligent as Kamala Harris right now whenever she tries to make a speech.
And it has its own spin on the genre, with it being round-based.
Hey, I don't mean to burst your bubble or anything, but there's been game modes that are round-based in shooter games for a very, very long time. Battle mode is not innovating because it has rounds.
anyone who's played Quake or Doom will tell you, fuck no, Halo isn't an arena shooter.
See why I told y'all to remember that clip? Earlier he labeled Halo as not being an arena shooter, but now he's labeling Splitgate as being an arena shooter.
He never fucking said Halo wasn't an arena shooter. He was saying—
Yes, he did. Not outright, but he implied it because he's running with the narrative that people don't consider Halo an arena shooter. He's arguing in favor of those people saying that Halo isn't an arena shooter, so what's your fucking point?
Well, if you actually paid attention earlier in the video, which I assume you at least tried to, you would have seen that I stated the Actman is simply talking about people who primarily play Doom or Quake. I know you yourself stated that you as a Doom and Quake player do believe Halo is an arena shooter, but once again, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. Now, with that out of the way, you yourself admitted that the Actman never stated that Halo was nor wasn't an arena shooter. With that in mind, is it not therefore reasonable to believe that if he thinks Splitgate, which is just Halo with portals, is an arena shooter, that he believes that Halo is also an arena shooter? Saying that other people who play Doom and Quake do not label it as an arena shooter.
I play Doom and Quake. Guess what? Halo's an arena shooter. And you also agreed with me that it is an arena shooter, so your argument still falls flat on its face.
Does it really though? Because we literally have an example of someone who plays arena shooters like Doom and Quake that specifically states Halo is not an arena shooter in your own chat. He just so happens to be the very same person that is in this video. The fact that you cannot comprehend that there are exceptions to generalization is fucking mind-boggling to me.
By the time the Xbox One and PS4 generations launched, arena shooters had all but fallen out of memory, and any new attempts at reviving the genre hardly made a splash.
Oh, you know, besides Wolfenstein the New Order, Wolfenstein 2 the New Colossus, Ultra Doom Kill, 2016, Doom Eternal.
I wonder how many fucking times I'm gonna have to say this, but he's talking about multiplayer dipshit, not to mention half of those games you just mentioned, either no one's ever heard.
So if the main narrative that Actman's going for is the multiplayer side of this genre, then why does he conveniently like to cherry pick whether or not single player matters in this context or not? especially when bringing up games like GoldenEye.
Well, Nier, if you actually paid attention to the video like you claimed to, he's talking about the game that made shooters as a whole more popular on console. You know, it is possible to talk about two different conversations and have both of them be different contexts. I know that may be revolutionary for you, but trust me, it's possible. Them, or they're only on fucking PC. Holy shit, this video was a fucking pain to get through. The amount of mental midgetry going on was literally killing me.
Is this uploader on his period? Okay, I'm pinning that.
Oh, dude, that forced laughter's so fucking cringe. Please don't ever do that again. But you know what? I think that's gonna be it for today's video. After all, he is just watching the outro. And the last, like, what, 30 minutes or more of this live stream is just him in a voice call with Thunderstruck. And I'm not trying to make this video way too fucking long. But all I have to say in conclusion is if you go look at the video from Actman and you go look at the likes and dislikes, well, it seems like most people agree with him. And you know, it appears to be that most of the people that are upset about this are just speds screaming into the fucking void. But that's pretty much all I have to say there. I will say though, it was pretty fun making my first response video to someone responding to me. Blame Truth did mention me, but there wasn't really enough there to make a video. But this one, well, there was way more than enough to make an entire video on this. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. It really does mean a lot to me, especially on these longer videos. And you know, if you liked it, leave a like, and if you disliked it, leave a dislike. And you know, if you want to see more of this kind of content in the future, maybe even go ahead and subscribe. But at the end of the day, all that shit is optional. Now I hope you'll have a wonderful day or night whenever you may be watching this, and hopefully I'll see y'all next time. Later.